Yep. Looks like we're live. So I don't see where we've come in yet. There we go. We live, man. All right, T. This is a special edition.
Yes, sir.
So for those of you who don't know, and I know there's not a lot of people in here right now, but actually there's no one here right now. But T is his new official role is like the guest analyst to the Angry Man podcast. He did such an amazing job when we had the opportunity to bring him on. And so we just feel like his background is similar to our background, and, his views and the way he approaches the game is similar to ours. So, we thought it'd be really good to have T on as a guest analyst. So, yeah, man, I'm going to dig into this Terence Crawford video, man. I know a lot of people don't know about this yet, and this is an impromptu video, so I'm going to kind of play. I'm gonna kind of lag a little bit here and see if we can get some folks in the building first before we start getting too heavy into it, because there's a few things that I felt like Terence Crawford said in this video that I just feel like is interesting stuff, man. I actually jotted down a few notes. So let's see.
There's a good bit of ground to cover in that, and like you said, we'll give it a chance. We'll give some people a chance to get it cooking, for sure.
But let's talk about something else until the people start coming in, because I know there's going to be people that are coming in, man. So we posted a few videos today, one of which was Boots Ennis and the potential that he's going to fight Stanionis. So that's an interesting fight as far as I'm concerned. So I'm going to give you the opportunity to kind of give your take on that, since you haven't had the opportunity. And then that'll help bridge the gap until when we get some additional folks in here. We'll kick it off and start talking about this Terence Crawford thing.
Okay, cool. So I was going ahead and get the stream up so I can keep up with the chat when they pop up. But
yeah, absolutely.
So Jaron Ennis and Emantis Stanionis. I like this fight for a lot of reasons, man. Stylistically, it's something that you gotta love, right? You have Stanionis, who will stand there and he will trade with you. He'll get into those 50-50s, and he's going to bring the fight. He's not just going to wait for you, but he's comfortable if he's got to back up and kind of set you up for some stuff too. So I really like the prospect of seeing him against Boots, who we haven't seen tested in the way that I think most of us find suitable. That's not to discredit his record. This man has stepped into the ring enough times to show he's got that talent, that
Absolutely.
Great fine-tuned ability, and he brings so many tools to the table. I just want to see him use those tools against the next level of competition. And I'm not going to say his record is fluffed up. Since he's been fighting on Showtime, he's fought some really good competition. It's just sometimes dudes just make other guys look ordinary. LeBron James came in, he made guys look ordinary. Michael Jordan made guys look ordinary. Some guys just have that ability, and I think Boots is one of them. But you also see games where they face tougher competition, and you see they have to dig in and really pull out the very core of them. And I think that this fight will be a good barometer for what he's going to look like when he starts to fight at the championship level. I think he's going to be a little bit too quick for Stanionis. And I don't want to give a prediction or anything like that if they don't officially announce it. But I will say that I'm looking forward to a really good fight that'll go beyond what we've seen him do. I think the furthest he's been is 6 rounds. I could see this getting into the 10 range before a stoppage happens, or maybe even 12. And I could see a really good fight, a really good entertaining fight to end the year for Showtime.
No, I agree with that, man. I think this is a really interesting fight, to the point that you've made. And we've said this for a long time because, man, honestly, I really, really, really enjoy Boots. I like Boots. I like the humbleness of Boots. I like the skill of Boots. He's rangy. He's big. He's fast. He has defense. So I like all of those things as it relates to Boots. But we haven't seen him fight against that next level of competition, man, where I can get comfortable with saying he's going to be the future of boxing. And so So this fight against somebody like Stanionis, a guy that has a chin, a guy that's strong, has a good attack, good boxing skills. He is a bit straight up and down. He doesn't have special effects, but that doesn't always matter, right? You don't always need special effects to be at the top of the game and be one of the more dominant players in the sport. So I'm curious to see if this is going to be the case. Now, I saw somebody in our comment section said it's going to be Crowley who's going to be the opponent, which is deflating for me because that's not what I necessarily want to see. But if he gets into the ring with Stanionis, which I don't doubt Boots will because he has that level of confidence in himself. If he gets in there with Stanionis, man, we got a real fight on our hands. And let me pause here real quick, T, and just say this. Guys, we're going live today. This is a special edition of the Angry Man podcast, and I got my boy T in the building with me, man. Again, he's going to be a guest analyst on the show quite regularly. But this video really is to talk about the DAZN boxing interview with Terence Crawford. Right now, we're just giving you some supplemental stuff until we get some more people in the building, and then we're going to dig into this Terence Crawford interview, man, because I got a lot to say about that. I really do. And I know you do as well, T.
Yes, sir.
The other video that we posted today was around we actually posted 2 other videos. So Devin Haney and Paulie Malignaggi, they're still beefing with each other. Don't quite understand what's going on. Thanks to one of our subscribers who jumped in there and basically told me that Bill Haney and Devin and Paulie Malignaggi basically squashed it on the boxing source. But yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, Devin went on his IG and said he beat the fuck out of Paulie Malignaggi. So obviously, he's still pissed about something, right? So I don't know what exactly that is. So I want to give you again the opportunity to speak to that because I know you've seen that in some of the headlines.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been tracking that a little bit, and I'm not one to automatically just pop out. There's a race card at play. I think Paulie Malignaggi is a really great analyst. Let me say that first. He's a really great analyst. He's a great boxing mind. This dude knows his stuff. I think sometimes beyond his better judgment, his mouth gets him in trouble. And I think at this point, he maybe needs to just let this one go, especially with Devin, because he's putting him opposite non-black fighters, right? And that's just rubbing Devin the wrong way. His upbringing, his religious background and things like that, he's not going to stand for the disrespect that he's feeling from Paulie. And that's what's escalating it. So even though his dad's like, you know what, they had that conversation on the Boxing Voice a couple weeks ago. And, they came to some peace and kumbaya-ish towards the end of it or whatever. But that doesn't mean that Devin, who's actually the fighter, is okay with anything else that Paulie has had to say since then. And he's going to stand on his square and make it be what it is, which is, I feel like I'm the best fighter in my division. I feel like I'm one of the best fighters in the world. And you need to respect me because as a boxing analyst, just keep it real and give me the same respect you give to these other fighters who haven't necessarily done what I've done, especially where he's putting him against Loma and stuff like that. I think the whole situation is Paulie needs to know when to just hold the L and just stay in the analyst seat because you're not going to get in the ring with Devin. So let's not even get into that back and forth. Let's be above the fray and move forward and just give a honest boxing opinion about the situation instead of feeling like he's targeting one person. Just move on to somebody else. Talk about Tank. Talk about Loma. Talk about Shakur. Just talk about somebody else and leave Devin alone. So I just think that he's just salty because I know deep down in his heart, he probably feel like if they were the same age, if all things were equal, he couldn't beat Devin anyway. So maybe he just has that in the back of his mind. It's an ego thing.
Yeah. And my thing is this, man, and I've said this on multiple occasions as it relates to Paulie Malignaggi. He is an excellent analyst. I really enjoy Paulie Malignaggi as an analyst. I like to hear his feedback, his commentary. And to be quite honest, I like to hear the feedback and commentary of all boxers. But you're no longer a boxer. You are an analyst now. Why every time I see Paulie Malignaggi, he's in some kind of debate with somebody. And his logic in his mind and the way that he debates is, I'm going to scream at you, get louder and louder and louder, get more flamboyant in my argument in order to make my point. And in reality, your point should be made by the fact that you are using sound logic in order to make your point. And so that's the problem that I have with Paulie Malignaggi. I like him as an analyst. I like him as a commentator. I'm not so sure I like him as a person in terms of the things that he said in the past relative to African Americans and who's taking over the sport currently. But at the end of the day, and I don't like him also because he seems to have shown some racial tendencies that to me, and I get it too. Devin Haney made a comment that a white boy would never beat him. We know that there's great fighters in the sport, whether they're black, whether they're white, whether they're Mexican. At the end of the day, though, African Americans have dominated boxing and they've dominated a lot of different sports. So, making that comment is not far from reality, right? I mean, that's just what it is. But so I can understand him having an issue with what Devin Haney said, but at the same time, holding on to it and continuing to like this grudge match with a boxer is just not necessary at this time.
Yeah, he definitely needs to let it go.
hey, Savage Spence, or Savage Science, sorry. Bro, I'm going into that. I saw that as well. Bud admitted that he was talking to BLK since June on the DAZN interview. Shit is nuts. Bro, I wrote that down in my notes. That was one of the things that I wrote in my notes, bro. So, yes, we're going to cover all of it. We're going to get into it, man. We just really covering some of the things that we've dropped here recently. But, bro, we're definitely going to get into it. The last thing that we dropped today before we transition into the Bud Crawford interview with DAZN is, you know, the Tank and Ryan Garcia fight. So that's to me, that's probably the second biggest fight in the sport. We talked about that a little bit. So I also want to give you an opportunity to speak to that fight. And then we're going to transition into Bud Crawford and what he just recently said on the DAZN interview. Because, again, that's really why we started this podcast. Guys, this is some bonus information for you guys, a bonus podcast, if you will, bonus live, because we usually only do this on Sundays. But I hit my man T up, and we said we're going to go live. So, T, what you think about that?
So, man, I love the prospects of the fight. I wish we could get it. I wish boxing could get it together. But that said, I'm not going to get on the soapbox about that. I know that past politics are getting in the way of that happening, but I feel like both these fighters want it. I never think fighters don't want to fight each other. That's what they do, especially guys that have been doing it for a good little while. I like the idea of Tank facing a taller opponent who can offset his quickness and power with length and range. Yeah. I like that Ryan is going to actually be stepping up in competition, facing the best fighter he's ever faced in the ring under the bright lights. And Tank, somebody that's going to give him toughness. A lot of guys, they feel his power, they back off. Tank is on record saying, I want to taste your power, and then once I know what you're bringing, then I know how to bring my game. And he's done that in several fights where he's fought, he's not been a bigger fighter, or I guess you could say the stronger or more sizable fighter. So from a style standpoint, man, I think it's going to be a good fight. Obviously, I mean, I picked Tank in this one, and just because Ryan does leave himself available to be hit defensively, and Tank is a guy you can't give those opportunities to. So if Goosen can clean that up for Ryan, then we could see a fight that goes to the cards, because these dudes are in there just fighting their asses off. But if he still has those defensive lapses at this point, whenever that fight occurs, I just feel like you got to give the advantage to Tank, because he can work his way inside. He is pretty defensively responsible. He doesn't take a lot of unnecessary damage. And when he gets in there and bang, he's very slick. And I don't think Ryan has seen that slickness in his history yet and under the lights. So I do favor Tank, but I still give both men, I've got it 55-45 Tank. Ryan has a great chance, because we haven't seen Tank really get that chin tested either. So Ryan could drop a couple of them hooks on him, and it might be night-night for the homie. So it's tough to call, but if it ever happens, man, I can't wait to see it. I feel like it's going to be a spectacle and a great night. And the attendance in the pay-per-view is going to be bananas. Like, they could put 40,000 in the building for that fight and sell 300 to 400K pay-per-views easy. That's my opinion on it.
Totally agree with that. You basically echoed my sentiment that I had earlier today. I thought initially that Tank would be way too much for Ryan Garcia. I think Ryan Garcia is more of a social media star than I thought a boxer. But after getting the opportunity to see Tank versus Rolly Romero, and I really recognized at that point that range and power is two attributes that a fighter can bring to the ring that's going to give Tank Davis some problems, period, end of story.
Absolutely.
And so when I saw that, I realized that Ryan Garcia also has length, he has power, he has speed, and he has boxing skills. So
yeah,
the notion that he's just gonna run through Ryan Garcia, man, I think it's a bad one. I think it's gonna be a close fight. I think at the end of the day, more than likely Tank will get him up out of there somewhere around the later rounds, 8 or 9 rounds. But this just won't be as explosive of a fight as I originally thought it was going to be. And so that's my take on that.
That's very fair. He does bring the tools that will offset some of Tank's strong suits. So Makes for a really good, entertaining fight that people will really enjoy. Casuals, diehards, grandmas, aunties, uncles, everybody will like to see that fight, especially with the way they're going to pack. It's going to be a who's who in the crowd and everything. I can't wait if they ever make it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, man, let's jump into this Terence Crawford stuff, man. Shout out to Brenda McDonald. Hey, Brenda, how are you? I appreciate all the feedback that you've been giving us in the comment section. Much love. Man, I want to go into this DAZN video, bro.
Okay.
So Terence Crawford, they dropped a video today, DAZN Boxing, and they interviewed Terence Crawford, and he went through a number of different topics. And as far as I'm concerned, T, and you tell me what you think, but as far as I'm concerned, Terence Crawford is still in damage control. He's not necessarily promoting the fight. He's going on DAZN Boxing. The majority of the conversation was around the negotiations relative to Errol Spence, because really that's all people care about. And they're not necessarily focused on the David Avanesian fight. You can even see the interviewer was like, I already know you're going to beat this guy, so what's next, right? So it's quite clear that no one is interested in this fight. And really what they want to understand is what happened with Errol Spence and what's going to happen next with Terence Crawford. So I'm going to pause there and ask you, do you feel similar in terms of Terence Crawford and whether or not he's in damage control at this point?
Well, yeah, you could look at this interview as damage control, but what I think happened is he should have done this first. He should have called those guys up. That was Akin Barak, right?
Yeah.
He should have called them up first and been like, yo, I want to speak my piece, but I need an interviewer. I need a point guard, and then I'll take it to the rim. Just give me the right questions, and I'm going to answer them instead of doing the live. I think after the live, when he realized how unprofessional and poorly done it was, I don't know if it's damage control at this point, as he needed somebody to guide him to the point, a professional. He needed somebody asking the questions that he already knew that he was going to answer, right? That's how this interview was structured. The only thing that, he stuck on the who were the mystery investors, the hedge fund investors. Other than that, they guided him to say certain things. He was pointed there. So I think it's not necessarily continued damage control as much as he's trying to just fix that previous interview. So the last tape on him talking is him talking in a more structured environment versus that freestyle live that didn't shine the best light on his ability to articulate his points. So I don't know if that's still damage control, though. You get where I'm coming from?
No, I absolutely get where you're coming from. You're basically saying it's a correction of what he did in the past, which was the live stream where it wasn't necessarily an environment where it was more controlled and he was getting questions that he can just kind of play off of. And I think it's a better environment when you go somewhere where people are going to ask you questions that are not tailor-made, right? So they're questions that people and fans actually want to know. And I think they did a good job of that. But simply put, I don't think Terence Crawford actually did a good job of answering those questions. So I want to start off, man. I just took a few notes.
Okay.
So number one, so they were talking to him, and Mikey Garcia came up. And so what I wrote down here was he said that Mikey Garcia was just used to elevate Spence's career. And so let me see what else I wrote here. Yeah, so they basically call him out on it. So the host called him out on it and said, well, no, that's not true, because at the end of the day, Mikey Garcia was actually with Al Heyman prior to. And then he went on to say, no, he's that was really a part of a master plan to build Spence up using Mikey Garcia. And so what's interesting about that, which doesn't make any sense, is number one, Mikey Garcia was fighting at a lower weight before he fought Errol Spence with the PBC.
Right.
So that's number one. Number two, Mikey Garcia called out Errol Spence. So how the fuck was it a master plan to build up Errol Spence? Errol Spence was trying to fight Porter, and he couldn't get the Porter fight. So because he couldn't get the Porter fight, he ended up taking the Mikey Garcia fight. So what he's saying doesn't make any sense relative to Mikey Garcia. So I'm going to pause there. That was the first note that I took, and it was the first fallacy that I saw in what he was saying. I'm going to pass it to you, T. What you think about that?
Okay, yeah, let's cook on that for a second. So this is why I think Bud needs a media specialist. Hey, Bud, if you're watching, give me a call, man. I can help you. All right, so that's my sales pitch. Anyway, so he had kind of a good point. He just framed it wrong. So I'm gonna agree with him to some degree that they kind of fed Mikey to Errol, because when you got somebody that you feel like is gonna take over the division as a promoter, marketing, and broadcast company, you need to make sure you put them in the right light. This is something that Top Rank should have been doing for Bud. So it sounds like he's a little salty that, well, Top Rank didn't pump me up. Yes, PBC was smart. You know, the promotional team over there connected to Al Heyman was smart. They propped Spence up in a way to make sure that he had high-profile fights whenever he needed them against high-profile people, packing, 40,000 plus into a huge stadium owned by one of the craziest people on the planet, and the marketing in Texas, like, that was genius. That was strategic genius. And yes, it was a put on to prop him up. And it really didn't hurt Mikey, because he had the benefit of saying, man, I came up 2 weight classes to fight that dude. Of course I got beat up, so it's no loss for him. And he made a career payday. So yes, he's partially right, but I don't think from the beginning that was the plan. I think that the stars aligned perfectly. And because Errol couldn't get other fights at that time, he was able to align himself with Mikey and get that fight and get it on. And they both made a lot of money and increased their popularity at the same time. So he told the half truth, in my opinion.
Yo, that's exactly the way I feel about it, honestly. So I thought the same exact thing in terms of Mikey Garcia and the fact that Errol Spence had the opportunity to fight Mikey Garcia and build his profile. And I was thinking that Terence Crawford is actually salty about the fact that he didn't have the same opportunity at Top Rank. Because at the end of the day, that's what your promoter is supposed to do. They are supposed to have a master plan to build you up into this a superstar, this pay-per-view superstar, so you can make the most money that you can earn, and they can make the most money that they can earn. So the fact that he's saying this tells me that Terence Crawford doesn't even understand the business of boxing, which we've been saying on this channel for a whole lot of years. I think he understands it. He's just really salty about it. And it really makes no sense what he's saying, man. To your point, he needs someone that's savvy with the media. He needs a better team around him, because he doesn't realize that every time he goes on to any one of these platforms and he opens his mouth, he looks worse and worse and worse, because the stuff that's coming out of his mouth, when you think about it, makes absolutely no sense. If you're not a Terence Crawford fan, if you're somebody who's looking at it objectively, you already know that it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, he definitely has to find somebody that's going to help him cook a little better on camera and articulate his points in a way that people can at least find plausible. Like, you know what? I hadn't thought of it that way. Let me think on that for a minute, because it's easy to see what he's saying, hear what he's saying, and instantly go, nah, that doesn't sound right to me. And when people can instantly deny because you're not communicating your points, you're going to have a hard time in front of the camera. You're going to have a hard time swinging the vote your way. That's going to make it harder to get people to buy your pay-per-view coming up in a few weeks.
Yep. Totally agree with that, man. Totally agree with that. So let me look at what else I had.
Shout out to Brenda. Welcome. I see she made it.
So they asked him specifically so they were asking him about the fact that he was saying that, all he wanted was where the money is. So where the money's going to go, how the money's going to track, so forth and so on. When they asked him that, this is what he said. Al don't do too much talking in the media. Well, he doesn't talk at all. Everything that I said is what I said, and that's pretty much it. And they were asking him about Al, like, what did Al say to you, and what in terms of the money and how it's going to be tracked? And so to me, that's not an answer, right? Like, you telling me that they want to understand. You're saying that, so basically he's making the argument that they weren't being transparent. But when they asked him, what did Al respond to when they were being resistant to the actual transparency, he couldn't actually give us an answer. There was no answer in there. All he just said is, Al doesn't talk to the media, and I said what I said. What does that mean? What does that mean? The question is, and this is where I don't like with some of these entities that are kind of like, kind of friends with some of these fighters, because they should have pushed them on that. We're asking you, how did Al Heyman react to you saying you want transparency and that's the issue? If Al Heyman has said something to you, I would think that Terence Crawford would be more than willing to divulge that information. He's divulging everything else. I feel like the reason why he didn't is because there was no issue in terms of the transparency. And I think it was all bullshit. And I'm going to pass it to you. What's your thoughts on that?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm gonna pin it into something that Brenda's saying here. Does Heyman list his investors? So to go into Bud basically evading the question by saying, basically I said what I said and that was that. What you're telling everybody that's watching the interview is that I was only going to reveal as much info as I felt comfortable and not going to be completely transparent during these negotiations with the people I was trying to do business with. Unfortunately, if you're coming from the outside in, because that's how it's viewed, you probably need to come with more transparency first. You kind of have to, you give what you expect to get back. If you want respect, you give respect first. So I'm going to respect your business by being completely honest with you about where my money's coming from and where my financial backing that's been offered to me is coming from. As far as Al Heyman sharing his investors with Bud, I don't know if that's necessary because his business is already out there. Everybody kind of knows who Al Heyman is doing business with. There's certain information that's already online that you can look up and find out who helped him get started. There's literally an article circulating around with about 5 different parts telling you who helped him get started. We have no idea who Bud was bringing to the table, so there should be some transparency on his part if he was expecting the level of transparency that he requested from PBC and Al Heyman. So I think the way that he answered the question, it was just an open banana in the tailpipe or the end around. Like, look over here, I'm going over here. And he's just kind of just moving the pieces around and not really giving them everything they need to feel comfortable moving forward with him, thinking about even considering whatever investment team he was looking at.
Yeah. So I want to go to this next one. They asked him, was he happy about his decision leaving Top Rank? This is what he said. Not at all. I did what I did. Like I said before, everything happens for a reason. I'm here now, and it is what it is. It's not an answer, dog. Like, are you happy about the decision that you made? It sounds like to me he's really not all that happy about the decision that he made. If you are happy about a decision that you made financially, personally, in your relationships or otherwise, you're going to say, man, I'm really happy about the decision that I made. And here's why. I'm doing this, and this. This 1, 2, 3, and 4. You can spit it off the top of your head because you've already thought about these things. The fact that he's just saying, it is, I did what I did and it is what it is. It tells me that he's really not happy with where he is in terms of this BLK deal and the fact that he left Top Rank. So what are your thoughts on that?
Man, I don't think that he's in a happy place business-wise. I think he's comfortable, with his abilities still. He's still confident. But from a business standpoint, I think he's looking back reflectively as his career is close to that age where fighters wind down. I'm not retiring, but he's close to that age where fighters start to wind down. He's reflecting on his business decisions maybe, and there could be some regret there. I can't say for sure, but I definitely think that maybe he's reflecting on the BLK Prime deal like, I might have jumped the gun and ran in there a little too quick. There might have been some better opportunities, and I could be working with these people, potentially making the same money and on a platform that's already supported. So he might have some regrets over his career as far as business goes.
I would imagine that he has several regrets in terms of business. Just thinking about the fact that he's with BLK at this moment. I suspect that that's probably not going as he has experienced in the past when you consider Top Rank and how they do business. But, it is what it is. So the host asked him, hey, what's next for him in terms of the Errol Spence fight? Is that what he's planning next? Here's what he said. I've battled within myself on the Errol Spence fight. I said it to y'all a couple of years ago. At some point, you get tired of it. You're putting everything into it and not getting anything out of it, and everybody's blaming you. If I do it or if I don't, I'm still at fault. Me being victorious versus Avanesian, this is a tough opponent. A lot of people don't know him, but the boxing diehard people know who he is. But they act like they don't. It's because they're kind of disappointed with how the negotiation went with Errol Spence. So of course they're going to throw shade on the fight. And then he went on to say that Avanesian is a tough opponent, and people that say otherwise don't know boxing. So that right there in and of itself is interesting, because he says he's battled with this for a long time. What exactly does that mean? And he's been trying to make the fight. These guys have been negotiating since May. The fight has been discussed amongst boxing fans since 2017. But what the hell has Terence Crawford put into this fight other than the negotiations that he's had over the last few months to make this fight? I don't understand that statement. And a lot of people are blaming him because he decided to go back to Top Rank, when we already know that Top Rank is not good at promoting African-American fighters. So that's a part of the reason why people were angry with him. I know that was part of the reason why I was a little bit like, man, what are you doing, Terence? But all this stuff that he's put all this into making this fight, what the hell have you put into making this fight other than the last few months of negotiation? Does that make sense to you, T?
Not at all. I don't know that he's put a lot into it outside of just retaining his title so he could be in position to fight for undisputed at 147. So I mean, there's some lifting there. It's not the heaviest lifting, but other than that, like you said, about 5 months of negotiation is about all that he's dedicated. Well, 4.5 months of negotiation is all he's really dedicated from my perspective. So I think that he should be really interested in entertaining, trying to find a way to make this fight happen, not just for legacy, but just because it's a good fight. It's a great way to test your skills and show you said you believe you're the best fighter on the planet. Show it in the ring and go ahead and make this deal happen. And don't try to downplay the role of Errol Spence in your legacy. Don't try to downplay that. Just like Spence shouldn't either. Errol shouldn't. Neither. Y'all need each other. I don't care what they say, Hall of Fame, all that. You could be in the Hall of Fame and still have an iffy resume if you just do something long enough, or if you just happen to be in the right place at the right time. You can win a Super Bowl on a really great team and be a crappy quarterback or whatever. Not saying he's a bad fighter, but again, all of these things to say they need each other, and he needs to understand that he has a very important role in either putting people around him that understand the business better to help him get this fight done, and stop playing the card of I'm back and forth on this fight. I go back and forth and I'm fighting good competition right now. I just think he needs to drop that act and just focus on, yes, I really want to fight Errol. And the next time we go to the negotiation table is by any means necessary.
My apologies, fellas, for being a little late here.
Hey, Jay, what's going on, man? Let me see.
What's happening?
What's going on? Let me get you set up in here. You need to turn your camera to the side, my guy. Not sure what you're doing, my guy.
There we go.
Okay,
hey, at least he's centered.
Let me get, you're not centered yet. Let me get you centered in there. I try to get Jay to jump in soon so we can have this all set up. My apology, everybody.
No, that's on me.
But we are good to go now. All right. So sorry I had to do that live, but I'm sorry, I forgot what point I was making.
You're talking about basically about how Crawford, basically what last thing T said was how Crawford was flip-flopping back and forth.
Yep. So this is another thing that I wrote down. Now, I've seen many of you talk about this. And
real quick, Greg, did y'all talk about how Crawford talked about how he said he was talking with BLK Prime back in June and July?
I was just about to go there. The man is reading my mind. This is why this man is my partner, ladies and gentlemen. I was just about to go there. Started talking to BLK in June or July. So number one, how are you already? Now, he did give the caveat later that he wasn't necessarily negotiating. But what the fuck are you talking about if you're talking to him back in June and July? So obviously he was playing both sides right from the beginning. So guys, tell me, if you're a Terence Crawford fan in the comment section, how can you justify this? He's not negotiating in good faith. He's playing both sides of it at the end of the day. The second thing that I noticed about that popped up into my mind, I wrote this note down, was this doesn't match up with Blue Blood's timeline. When did Blue Blood meet him at the 7-Eleven? Because Blue said that he was the one that did all this. But the way that he described his meeting with Terence Crawford, Crawford was pissed with him because of what he was saying. So it doesn't sound like he had set Crawford up with anything. It really doesn't match up with his timeline.
Yeah, not at all. I want to say Blue came out with his stuff, what, August, September?
I think so.
Blue started talking about it right after the fight was announced, but in the live that he did, his timeline, there's a little bit of symmetry in the timeline in that he said they had reached out to Bud and he basically told him, like, my focus is Spence, so not right now. And I think Bud kind of said the same thing in his interview with DAZN, but not exactly, because it sounds like they were actually kind of talking terms, according to Bud, and Blue Blood made it sound like they hadn't talked terms. It's kind of like they were like begging for a date, and he was like, nah, like, I'm not interested. Like, he was pushing them away, and then eventually he was like, okay, cool, let's do it. From Bud's perspective, it sounded like he was seriously considering it, but his focus was actually Errol. So there's a little bit of symmetry in the timelines, but there's some gaps that just don't make sense. Somebody's not telling the exact truth.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, T, it's either 1 minute you want to fight Spence or Spence is beneath you, behind you, you don't need Spence. Then all of a sudden in this interview he was talking about, he's like, again, the goal is still there. You know, I'm like, what is it, bud? I'm like, again, why can't he be transparent talking about who he's going to fight? I mean, who's the money coming from? And then he's going to say Spence never asked for where the money's going to come from? That makes no sense for me. No sense to me.
Yeah, I'm just responding to some of the comments in the So I want to respond to Brenda. I was about to type it, but Brenda's saying he knew he needed a day one plan B. But why? You're not negotiating in good faith at that point, Brenda. Like, if you're serious about making the Errol Spence fight, then why is it that you need a plan B? My sole focus would be just Errol Spence, and I get what you're saying, T. That he's basically saying that, you know, they came to him, but he let them know that, you know, his focus was just the Errol Spence fight. But I don't know if I believe that, man. I really don't. What you laughing about?
Bennett WM, he said David and Amnesia should be a plan G. But no, but also on top of that, Bud said he agreed to everything.
Yeah.
How you agree to everything, then you cry about something, then you go elsewhere to plan B, and then you try to say, well, you know, everyone, the main people might not know who David Amnesian or whatever name is, but the diehard's going to know. Come on, man. I would never pronounce this guy's name because I can't. He lost a meme machine, man. Stop it.
Here's the other thing that he admitted on this. He also didn't tell BLK about Errol Spence negotiations at first. So he wasn't transparent on either side.
Wow.
So I'm going to point that to Brenda, because Brenda is a Terence Crawford fan. So, and I get it. I get what you're saying, Brenda. Smart people do have a plan B. I understand that. But at the same time, he also didn't tell BLK that he was negotiating with Errol Spence. So he's not being transparent with anybody, yet he wants everybody to be transparent with him. Brenda, you don't see the disconnect in that? Let me see what
that's definitely problematic. Yeah, that's definitely problematic. I'll cook while you check that out, man. If you have to be open about negotiation. So in terms of plan B, I can tell you for sure, think of it like an NFL free agent. He's talking to multiple teams, but everybody knows he's talking to multiple teams. You'll get that alert from ESPN saying, hey, so-and-so is visiting the Raiders today, the Saints tomorrow, and so on and so forth. Everybody knows where this guy's going, who they're talking to, and they even sometimes know a general idea what the offers have been that these people are recruiting these free agents. So there's going to be some transparency that just wasn't there with Bud. And I get it, the fight game's a little different, but there's nothing wrong with having a plan B if everybody knows it. But if you're on record saying all I want is X, then there is no other letter of the alphabet, because all you want is X, and then you're just left hanging. We know for a fact a fighter is always, his promoter and manager is always talking to 2 or 3 different opponents, because if something falls through, they know what day they need to get to camp and what day they need to start cooking on their workouts so they could be ready for a particular date, not necessarily a particular opponent. So we assume that he probably was talking to multiple people, but don't make it seem like you're not. That's the only issue I think fans are having, and some people that analyze the game are having, that he didn't seem transparent about, yes, I'm definitely looking at multiple ways to get in the ring by the end of 2022. Because I also believe PBC may have approached the fight a little bit different and just told him, well, go ahead and get your tune up early so we can either get you in December or we'll have you ready in January, February for Errol.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Oh, did y'all also
Absolutely. I
talk
totally
about how Bud talked about Mando's, how Spence he always fights Mando's.
I wrote that down. I got
my
that
bad.
later.
I jumped the gun. My bad.
I wrote out several notes. We're gonna talk about it though. We're gonna talk about it. So I want to go to the next one, right? GA Peach Denise, how are you? Let's see what she said. But why not say if we don't have an agreement by X day, I'm out. GA Peach Denise, exactly. Why not say that or say, hey, as a part of the negotiation, guys, I need a tune-up fight. I'm going to put this David Avanesian fight as a part of the contract. If I win and Spence gets his tune-up, he wins. We meet in Q1 of 2023. That's the way you do business. When asked about the $50 million hedge fund and who was going to provide it, the money, he said that Spence never asked him that, right? About who was the hedge fund. Guys, what sense does that make? Like if Jason, I don't know how much money you make, T, I don't know how much money you make. But let's say your significant other, your spouse come to you and say, hey, Jason, T, we got an opportunity. I know somebody that's going to double your salary. You can double your salary. What's the first thing you're going to ask that your wife about? Who is it or what are you doing to get that money? Well, in Spence's case, he already know what he's doing to get that money. So the first thing out of his mouth is going to be, who is it? Like to me, common sense is going to say, when I bring a deal like this, if it's your wife, they're going to say, X, so-and-so and so-and-so, ABC, XYZ is going to bring you this money. And if you don't hear that, common sense would tell you, anybody, that the person is going to say, well, who is this person? Because this person is willing to pay me 2 times what my market value is. I need to understand who it is and why. The fact that he said that Errol Spence never asked him that, but he also asked him about the back end, but he didn't ask him who it was. Come on, dude. Really? He had the wherewithal to ask you about the back end, but he didn't have the wherewithal to ask you who it was. What sense does that make?
It makes none. It makes absolutely no sense on that. I mean, Bud is just all over the place with it. He's trying to backdoor himself out of a problem that he got himself in by opening his mouth and lying and not being transparent himself. He wants someone else to be transparent when he's not being transparent his damn self. Oh, just trust me. But we know what your dealings were with Top Rank. How you couldn't get real big fights. You never got the Pacquiao fight. Remember that? So now I'm supposed to believe everything I'm supposed to believe you're a great negotiator. When you re-sign with Top Rank. That's strike number 1, 2, and 3. But I'm just believe you on just clear faith that you got somebody that's gonna pay $50 million, 25 a piece, guaranteed up front. Man, stop.
T, what's your thoughts?
Sounds sketchy at best. I mean, just the whole thing sounds sketchy at best. When he said that part, I think that's about as far as I got in the actual interview before I had to move on. But I kind of question that, and maybe I might be giving Errol too much credit and benefit of the doubt by saying I believe that if you tell somebody you have an opportunity to bring in that kind of money, they never asked you about the source of the money. I just find that hard to believe. But without knowing how that conversation went on FaceTime, it's hard to say. But it just doesn't sound right. Like you said, why would I ask you about the back end and I ask you about who it's coming from first? That's gonna be question number 1. You could tell me, hey man, I got this opportunity for you to make $3,000 over the weekend doing some random thing, cutting grass. Who's paying you $3,000 for me to cut their grass? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's because it's an overpay. It's kind of an overpay. That's an overinvestment. If he had said, like, listen, man, they're coming with about 20 million, so we'll get 10 each. Oh, okay. Who is it? We might start negotiating. But when you come with a big number like that, red flags are going to go up because that's just common sense that you're going to question things that seem out of pocket. And that number just seems extraordinary given the situation without knowing all the details. That's kind of my stance on it. Without all the details, I'm going to question where that money's coming from.
Most definitely.
I totally agree with that. And the other thing, and let me just react to GA piece, Denise, with no return on investment. That's what we've been saying for a while. He doesn't have a track record for being profitable. If I'm a hedge fund, I'm in the business of making money. I'm not in the business of charity. I'm in the business of making money. And I'm going to look at the financials associated with this fighter and his history. And if he doesn't generate anything, why would I offer $50 million on the belief that Errol Spence can carry $50 million? Because he can't either. So that is what it is. But here's the other thing that he said. He said he brought the deal to Al Haymon. He mentioned that in his live, and he said it on this interview as well. He brought it to Al Haymon. But I noticed in this interview, he tried to duck out of that real quick. And I was hoping that they were going to ask him, well, did you tell Al who it was? Because I think that was going to put him in a pickle. But here's the thing. Al Haymon, you brought $50 million to Al Haymon for a fight for you and Errol Spence. Al said, don't cap yourself or whatever. If Al Haymon thought that this was a legitimate deal, he has a fiduciary responsibility to Errol Spence because he is his manager, and this is the opportunity for Errol Spence to maximize his dollars. Not only does he have a fiduciary responsibility to Errol Spence, he also has a fiduciary responsibility to his own company because he is the manager and he gets paid based off a percentage. So if he's going to make $50 million, he's going to get 5, 10, whatever it is, of that percentage associated with that fight. Why in the hell would Al Haymon turn that down? Make it make sense to me. It doesn't make any sense. Al probably already knew that it was not a legitimate deal and gave him that whole summary of don't cap yourself. Because in reality, nobody's going to pay $50 million. You think these fighters are going to generate that much revenues that they can each get paid $25 million? Come on,
up front, guaranteed.
No way in hell. No way
Guaranteed.
in hell.
Plus back end, supposed to be 80-20 on the back end. That he said was going to be Spence way. Come on, man. Come on.
I agree with that totally. What are your thoughts on that, T?
So it's just answering. So we had a comment about the tickets for the Avanesian fight selling. They've sold 8K, and I think the seating is going to be like 16. So they're about halfway to a sellout, which is pretty good. So like I said, I'm hoping it does well for the health of boxing. In regards to Al Haymon's role in turning down the $50 million or not entertaining it, I think that he has projected and his team has projected a much higher ability for earning for the fighters, taking a percentage of the pay-per-view and all the other extras on the back end is going to come out higher than 25 mil for each man. Obviously, Errol's going to be more because he will have a higher percentage. The deal was to the benefit of Bud. Like Errol said, he was raising his potential money to earn. Errol already probably was looking at 25 mil plus based on what was projected. So if Al already knew his fighter was looking at that type of number to begin with, he has no benefit in cutting himself and his network potentially out of a deal to make Terence happy when his goal is to make his fighter happy and make his fighter wealthy and also get his percentage off of whatever his fighter makes. I mean, if I'm in Al's shoes, I'm not taking that deal either because at the end of the day, I'm in a business to make money for me too. I need to feed mine. So in my opinion, that's how it goes. I do want to wrap on that one, fellas. I'm going to listen to you guys because I got to get on to my next appointment. Thank you so much for having me back on. Looking forward to seeing you guys again. Hey, everybody in the chat, I'll be listening in and checking in on you guys. Everybody have a great evening.
All right, appreciate you, man. All right, let me see if I can switch this thing real quick. Jay, you always are never sized correctly. And there we go. We are good to go. I want to circle back to something that Anthony Jones said. So he said, Bud said the hedge fund people know Al Haymon, but they decided to approach B-side Bud instead of Al Haymon and the A-side team. That is a great point. Why would you approach the guy that's the B-side to make a fight like this unless you have a relationship with the B-side guy and you don't have a relationship with the A-side guy? But if Al Haymon knows this A-side guy, again, why would they go to Bud, the guy that's never sold anything, and not go to Al? But not only that, why would you spend $50 million on this fight? The fight to make that would probably make you that money back, honestly. And a lot of people probably don't think this, but I bet you it would. If I'm an investor, if I own a hedge fund and I want to invest in a fight right now, from a boxing perspective, it's going to be Canelo Alvarez versus Errol Spence or Deontay Wilder versus Anthony Joshua. Those are the two fights that I believe that if I made those fights today, I would get my money back if I paid those fighters $50 million. Nobody else in the sport and no other matchup, I believe that would happen. So none of it makes any sense to me.
It makes no sense. We know Bud right now. This is the way Bud talks about. He doesn't care about the actual entity. He just cares about getting his. And if they flop, they flop. He don't care how it looks on him or anyone else. He's already pretty much stated that so many words before. So I mean, just to come up with this $50 million entity and information and not telling anybody who it is, why?
Doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense whatsoever, and I simply cannot track with it.
It's
So that was the last note that I wrote down, other than the fact that he said, he's at a point now where he could retire and he be wealthy and set for the rest of his life, which I can believe that, because Terence Crawford looked like someone who is probably frugal and good with his money in terms of not spending it everywhere. But that also makes me very concerned about whether or not this fight would ever happen, Jay, because at the end of the day, the more money that Terence Crawford is getting, the more satisfied he is. He's 35 years old. We've mentioned this in some of our other videos. He's 35 years old. He's gotten to a point now where he's made a substantial amount of money. If he gets, $5-10 million and he gets another one from BLK, what makes anybody think that he's going to continue to fight and want to make that Errol Spence fight? I don't think it is. I think he's more interested in securing his future than he is in making that fight.
I agree with that. Also, he said in that thing on DAZN that he said he really didn't have to fight again. He made good investments. He pulled a whole Floyd Mayweather. I made smart investments. So it's almost like it's not a big deal. But then I'll say he's like, well, I'm here to make the best fights. Are you? You're fighting David Amnesia, or as Marlo says, anesthesia. So I mean, you're not here really to make the best fights. You don't care about your legs. You said this before. You don't need Spence to get to a Hall. You said you're already Hall of Fame worthy, pretty much. So you don't need this for your legacy. And they actually, both of them really need this for their legacy. They both do. This will submit them.
So JT Tate, I don't know if you joined the podcast late or whatever, but let me ask you this. Your wife comes to you and she tells you, or your significant other tells you that you make, I'm just going to throw out a number, $50,000. Your wife comes to you and says she knows somebody that's willing to pay you $100,000 and you're going to be doing the same thing. Your market value is actually $50,000. You're not going to ask and want to know who the source is? Like, it doesn't make any sense, bro. Make it make sense for me. Let's see who else talking in the comment section. Dude, they stopped Eddie shot down that it would have been a 3-fight deal with first Joshua Country and rematch. I'm not sure what Tone Loc is referring to. I'm not sure if you're referring to us, Tone Loc, something we said, or something else. If you could elaborate, I'd appreciate that. I'm not sure.
David and his niece and them. I like that one, Georgia Peach Denise. That
JT, he could get more in depth, but why would you? If he needs to get more in depth with everybody at the table, then why bring it to Errol Spence to begin with? If everybody needs to be at the table, just go right to Al Haymon because he's the decision maker. So there's no reason to even get Errol Spence involved to begin with. Just go right to Al and make sure everybody's aligned to that.
Not on JT Tate, but said he's like, make everything alive, make everything in front, put it in public. So what are you talking about?
He just said make everything transparent. He wants everything to be transparent.
So I mean, not only it's not for me to know. I'm just saying Spence should have known. Spence, if I'm Spence, I'm asking where that money's coming from. What you mean he didn't have a right to disclose? If he's not going to disclose, that means he's not being transparent. He's doing everything what he's accusing us of, Spence of not doing, of being transparent. That's what he's doing. So of course I'm gonna ask that money if I'm Spence. Where the money's coming from.
We're not talking about a live. We're talking about him disclosing it to Spence. He didn't disclose it to Spence either. That's what we're talking about. He would dispense with a deal and not willing to disclose it. That doesn't make any sense.
Why should Errol know where the money is coming from? Why should Bud see the books then? One is established, one isn't. I mean, come on, man. Make it make sense. Bud wants to know everything and where it's coming from. So Spence can't ask that same question. Al can't ask that same question. That makes no sense.
So
that's one-sided.
I'll say this, Donnie Pruitt. I think what Donnie Pruitt is saying is a fair point. I was a bit shocked that it's no guarantee. I thought that it probably was a guarantee that it would, but it was a low guarantee based off what Terence Crawford had gotten in the past. But Spence confirmed that it was no guarantee. Now I will say this: if you sell, you sell. You sell 1 million pay-per-view, it doesn't matter what your guarantee is. You about to walk home with a nice, pretty check. Pretty check. But I get your point there. I'm not gonna knock that. I was a little bit surprised by that myself.
Yeah, Mayweather did say it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, the League of Legacies. That's a fair point. So he's making everything else public, but he's not making that public.
Yeah, but he wants transparency.
He's going in there and he's telling all the truth. He's telling the whole truth, nothing but the truth. But when you ask him who the hedge fund people were, he can't disclose that. That's very interesting.
And yet
that's a fair point too. The League of Legacy, that's a fair point too. That League of Legacy, I don't know where the hell you come from, League of Legacy, because this is the first time I've seen you, but that is a great point. The guarantee comes from the promoter. He is acting as his own promoter. He's saying he's a boss. So really, he should be guaranteeing his own funds. He's saying he's a boss, but he operates like a worker. That's a great point, the League of Legacy, man. Welcome to the channel, man. Appreciate that. Duran Wright said that's because it's Daniel Kinahan. Yeah, you might be right.
Hey, we don't know. You know.
Hey, guys, can I pause right here very quickly and say, please, if you can, we would appreciate if you hit the like button. That helps everybody find the content that we are putting out. I would really appreciate that. And then I also want to give one of our subscribers who never agrees with anything we say, Brenda, a shout out for giving us a suggestion, which is the next time, maybe not the next time, but the time after that, because I think when we have Showboating on, we're not going to do this, but the next time we broadcast live, we're going to try to add call-ins because we want to hear what you guys have to say. We want to hear you guys talk. We want to hear you guys ask questions, and we want to have an open dialogue with everybody around boxing. So that's the plan. I'm setting it up, so I hope you guys will be interested, and that's something that you guys will enjoy, having the opportunity for us all to interact and talk. But anyway, let's get back to it. Let's see what's being said in the comment section.
JT Tate, he said the source knew Al, but he wouldn't tell Spence who the source was.
If the source knows Al, why not go to Al? Al is the power broker, and Terence Crawford is a nobody. He's a I'm not gonna say he's a nobody, but he's on the B side of the promotion. Why are you going to the B side of the promotion to make the fight? The B side of the promotion has no power. So Tone Loc, if it's Warren Buffett and it's Jay-Z and the hedge fund, why haven't they funded any of his other fights? He's been knowing those guys for years.
JT, no one's saying about him disclosing it to us. We're saying him disclosing it to Spence. Spence said he didn't disclose. He wouldn't say who it was. I mean, honestly, like we said this on previous videos, business like this should not be done in public. They should shut both of them, Spence and Bud. They should shut the hell up and do the stuff behind the closed doors until everything is done. Doing it in public, it's not going to help anything. It's going to make things go be worse. And my biggest thing, I want to see the fight, just like you and everyone else did in the chat. You know, we're being robbed of this fight right now. You know, so I mean, hey Greg, did you already talk about fighting the Mandos and stuff?
No, I did not talk about the Mandos. Yeah, let's hit that up. I remember that now. I'm gonna go ahead and let you kick that off.
So, Bud made a big deal about Spence fighting Thurman and everything. Thurman is one of Spence Mandos. Bud actually acknowledged this in the video he did with DAZN. He acknowledged Spence has 3 mandatories: Stanionis, Boots, and Thurman. He also acknowledged that he believes the WBC is going to overpower the others and mandate the Thurman Spence fight. And then he tried to backtrack, said Spence said he would never fight Thurman. If it's mandated, Spence really don't have a choice but to fight Thurman or get stripped. So it's not like Spence is going out there willingly to fight Thurman. Now, on the flip side, who's Bud's mandatory? Ortiz. Bud admitted this on that same video that Ortiz been his mandatory for like 2 years. So why didn't he fight Ortiz instead of David and Ennis and them, as Georgia Peach would say? Answer me that.
Yeah. So this is what I got from that. He mentioned that Ortiz had been his mandatory for a long time, yet he fought Sean Porter, yet he's never paid step-aside money to any opponent. How is that possible? He fought Kell Brook. Was his last two opponents Porter and Kell Brook, Jay?
Yeah.
So how is it that Ortiz has been your number one for a long time, and you were able to fight Kell Brook, who was not your mandatory, and Sean Porter, who was not your mandatory, but you paid no step-aside money? How is that possible? So maybe you didn't pay step-aside money, but you had angels on your side or something, but you certainly didn't fight every one of your mandatories when they became your mandatory. So let's not act like that. I mean, he's using, he's being slick with his words, but in reality, he's done something similar. He may have just not paid.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so T, Porter was his mando over because I thought Porter. Yeah, T, you're right. Porter was his mando. You're right. I'm remembering that now. Porter was his mando.
Bud said this. Bud said this on the zone.
Yeah, but Kell
was mandatory. I'm just going by what Bud said.
But Kell Brook wasn't his mandatory, for sure.
No, Kell Brook. Hell no.
So why did he fight Kell Brook though?
Spence fought him.
Brenda McDonald said Ortiz tweeted he not ready himself. I think I heard something about that.
I heard something about that too, but I also heard Oscar saying the exact opposite at times. So Oscar's been hit or miss with that. So yeah. I mean, it's a bunch of he said, she said, as you said earlier, Brenda McDonald out there on that. But again,
Brenda, that's a fair point. That's a fair point. I want to state that. That's a fair point. Brenda, what do you mean by we're covered? We're covered by what? Super Funk Master G. Why did Spence fight Mikey Garcia at 135? Spence didn't fight Mikey Garcia at 135. He fought him at 147. I'm not understanding what you're asking. Fat Cat, yep. No, T got me straight on that. Porter was his mando. I agree. That was my bad. Anthony Jones, correct. You're right. They did mandate Porter. I totally had forgotten that. Relax, calm down, and chill. That's absolutely right. Spence hires a team to actually do the work for him. Why in the world would Spence go there and be at the table when you have a team that's going to be at the table for you? That makes no sense.
And I agree with y'all with Ortiz. I agree. I don't think Ortiz was ready, but going by what Bud said himself that Ortiz was his mando for 2 years. Bud said this shit, not me.
Yeah. So T Ward, that's a great point. So he fought Mean Machine. He fought Porter. Now his mando is Ortiz, but he's fighting David Avanesian. So he doesn't always fight his mandatories, period. The point still remains. But great information, T. I appreciate that.
Exactly, Georgia Peach Denise. You hire people who are experts in their field. That
is exactly right. At this level, I'll say this. If you're on the Angry Man podcast, we do everything ourselves. But if you are a $1 million corporation, if the Angry Man podcast and AM Sports Media was $1 million corporation, trust me, I would not be doing my own thumbnails.
Anthony Jones, Jeff Corn, green beans, and avocado. He's on a health diet.
Super Funk Master G, but where's the backlash? Keep that same energy, aerosexuals. So what? So Funkmaster G, what? Yeah, it's bronzesexuals, aerosexual, buzzsexuals. They all out there. So what energy are you talking about, Master G? Just let us know. I'm not exactly sure what you're responding to when you say the backlash. Yeah, but Jake Paul actually makes money, Tone Low. I don't know if is PBC working with Jake Paul? I did not know that. They work with Jake Paul?
I don't know. I haven't looked at that. I don't really pay attention to the YouTubers too much like that.
Yeah, and me, the Tone Low. That's new information to me. If PBC works for Jake Paul, but if they did, he makes money, so that makes sense.
Yeah, Jay Petty, I get you about Oscar talking that promoter talk because that's why he came out recently talking about Al and all that stuff being dirty because he's trying to position to get in the fight with Ortiz and Bud right now. He even mentioned on his last, like an interview, I want to say last week before Zuro got his ass beat by Bivol. So I mean, I get it. Oscar's just playing the field. Don't worry, Brendan McDonald. We won't talk Jake Paul like that. We won't do that.
Hey, Brenda, you've never seen us talk about any exhibition fight on this channel. We don't talk about Mayweather exhibitions. We don't talk about Jake Paul. None of that shit.
That's not gonna happen.
Y'all keep the comments. Y'all keep the comments and the questions coming in, man. That's what we're doing right now. Comments and questions. Comment and questions.
Cruz versus Shakur. How you feel? I like it.
I like it.
I like
the fight.
I like the fight. I got Shakur still. Shakur's still gonna be the bigger fighter in there. He can't sleep on Cruz, and Shakur just got to make sure he keeps the defense tight as he always does. Use his range to keep that stick in Cruz's face.
Oh, JT Tate. That's a great. JT Tate. I think you're an arrow hater, but that's a great point. So, you remember that Terence Crawford made the comment that I heard y'all over there doing this stuff, and you know what I'm talking about. So I don't know what Terence Crawford was talking about. I thought that he was maybe talking about steroids. Maybe JT is talking about Molly. I'm going to say this. There's no way in hell I believe that Errol Spence is on any kind of drug. Not the way that he fight at that level. You can't be on a substance like that. I don't believe that shit at all. And I'm not sure where the Molly comment is coming from, but I don't believe that shit at all.
Yeah, JT, I haven't seen anything about that. I haven't seen the video. If we saw the video, we see the video, we'll talk about it. Trust us. We ain't as much as old boy want to talk about aerosexuals. We want to see the damn fight. We want to see the damn fight. We ain't no aerosexual. We're fans of boxing, not a boxer per se.
JT, drop the video. Okay. Drop the video in the chat. Drop the video in the chat so we can see it later. We'll certainly do a video on it. The League of Legacy saying the video was a skit. I don't know what the video is. We didn't see it.
Anthony Jones, Oscar ain't gonna let Ortiz do that, or he gonna have to be 49-0.
Hey, real quick, and I know this isn't on air, but did you guys see that video from Adrian Broner with the little person? You sent that to me a couple of days ago, Jay, and I decided not to do a video on it. I saw Blue Blood did a video on it. I thought it was whack as fuck. And I excuse my language, guys, but I really did think that shit was whack as fuck. And I think Adrian Broner is whack as fuck for doing it, regardless of whether that guy is his friend or not. Shit looked whack as fuck.
The video was a skit. Yeah, I haven't seen the video on that. What they're talking about. Not what you talking about with AB that I sent you, but the whole thing with Spence and Molly. Definitely, if you get the video, put in there. We'll find it. We'll
Tone Low said, I think he's talking about he drunk and drinking again after his girlfriend posted. I don't know what his girlfriend posted, Tone Low. We didn't see it. So if you got, we're perfectly open with discussing anything but sometimes there's so much stuff going on. Sometimes, guys, we're gonna miss it. So if there's something
Ashton said that video was prior to the accident, which would make sense as far as the timeline goes. But we don't know. I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. So
Gerald King Jr. I agree with that. Bud fans are always going off topic. They never keep it boxing. He's a drunk. He's this. He's that. We don't know what Bud Crawford is doing in his private life. Bud could be anything in his private life. So I think we should keep it boxing, man. Keep it boxing. Errol Spence, he was drinking, and that's what occurred. We all understand that that's what occurred, but I don't see that being the case anymore. So let's keep it boxing. Let's talk about the fighters.
So Brandon Madonna, you said Ryan Garcia and Barrios. I got Garcia in that one.
Easy. I didn't even have to think about that. Garcia gonna beat the brakes off his ass.
They were the fight.
Brendan McDonald, I agree with you. I haven't seen you get personal relative to Errol Spence at all, and you are definitely a Bud lover. Anthony Jones. Let me see what Anthony said. He's a Bud Rick sexual. They always make excuses for his career full of tune-ups and what is that? Hey, so I can't remember his whole name, but Legacy. I'm loving Legacy, and Anthony Jones. I'm loving Anthony Jones. Anthony Jones is like super funny. Guys, y'all keep pumping them in, man. I've covered everything that I had in my notes relative to that interview.
You see what Thomas Field said? Thomas Field said the video of Errol was from November 7th, 2021.
And he was drunk in it, or what?
I don't know. So I mean, that's before he fought Ugas, and that's when he was that was before he was even set up. Because Ugas fought Pacquiao last year, right? Yeah, it was last year because he got his eye busted by Spence this past April, May.
So I don't know if that's the case. I'm going to look at the video. I sincerely hope that that's not the case and Errol Spence was not hammered. If that is the case, that's a problem. That's a serious problem because, you know, Errol, the accident that happened, if the accident doesn't teach you a lesson, then nothing will. So I'm hoping that the date on that is something prior to that accident happening, which was accident happened in what, 19? It was 19, right?
What accident? Yeah, it was a 19.
T, that's a great point. So I've recently had surgery, and I can tell you for a fact that you are hazy for hours after your surgery. And I've come off of surgery here recently, and you are hazy for. I came off of surgery. Jay, you know what surgery I'm talking about. I came off of surgery, and I was hazy for the rest of the day.
Oh yeah, I've had ACL surgeries on both knees before, so I know how that shit and
Jay got bad knees. I
be on
those
oxys and them perks. Yeah,
Jay got
real good, man.
Hey y'all, Jay got artificial knees. I fuck with him all the time.
Yeah, these ACLs ain't been mine in like decades, so yeah, Tony Harrison versus Fundora, that's gonna be interesting.
I like that fight.
Yeah, it depends on what version of Tony Harrison we get. We get the Tony Harrison I just recently fought, Fundora's gonna get him out of there.
I agree with that.
Tony Harrison that fought Mel, that's gonna be a hell of a fight.
I totally agree with that. Totally. That man said BLT, MLK, BLM, everything but BLK, Black Prime, baby. Yeah, that's exactly what he said. Bud's not a good promoter, guys. It's not who he is. He's not a good promoter. Hey, guys, if you can, we got 62 likes. We got 123 people currently in the chat. If you haven't had the opportunity yet, please hit the like button. This helps everybody else find this content. And also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please subscribe. We like all views. So if you got a view that's different from ours or a view that's similar to ours, hey, at the end of the day, we just want to hear it. As long as you're respectful, we'll be respectful to you. Dwayne Givens. Jason, do you want to tell where you from?
Yeah, I'm from Tampa.
And I'm from Orlando, Florida. And we both met each other in college at Florida A&M University.
Goddamn you.
Fam, goddamn you.
All right.
And I also attended Florida State University, got my master's from there. And Jay is an avid Miami fan who recently got their ass whooped by the Florida State University. All right, let's move to the next topic.
I'm going to let you slide this time.
We beat y'all ass.
I'm gonna let you slide this time.
GA Peach, Denise, I am also in Atlanta, Georgia. I reside in Johns Creek, Georgia. What area of Atlanta are you in? Anton Richardson, I'm up in Ohio all the time. I go to, I'm always in Cleveland and I'm always in Akron. And I visit Perrysburg as well. I have manufacturing facilities in that area.
Hey, Aston got a good point. He's like, do you guys think BLK is buying the tickets to make it seem like Bud's doing good and sell?
Possible.
It's a possibility. Possible. I mean, a lot of promotions do that. I mean, because I sent Greg earlier the day about it's a concert with Ashanti and Ja Rule. They're performing at the Baxter Arena in Omaha the same night at 7 or 8 o'clock. Their place holds up to about 7,500 to 8,000 people. So I'm trying to see how that's going to impact. It might impact Bud's fight. Also, there's a country singer there, and there's another speaker has an event there. And not only that, all the other events that's going on in boxing and the Heisman Trophy presentation that night. Teofimo's fighting on that night. Manny Pacquiao has his exhibition that night. You know, it might be during the day because I believe it's in another foreign country, if I'm not mistaken on that. But it's just a lot of stuff going on December 10th. So it's going to be interesting to see how BLK does. You know, it's just, for me, with Bud going to BLK or anything like that, he talked bad about pay-per-views, but that's what BLK is doing as well.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just, you can't have it both ways, you know. But I mean, if they sell the place out and they do well, great. We got another player in the game. It's going to help the fighters get their money. But I still wonder how they're going to get their full return on investment in a smaller venue on such after paying all that money. You know, regardless of how anyone feels about Bud, y'all must admit, AB 3-fight deal for a year, 8 figures. You got to admit that's kind of ridiculous for AB.
Yeah, I agree with that. I want to go back to the comments. So GHP Denise, Southern University Jags. That's awesome, but your band ain't better than mine. Smitty Hustle says, hypothetical, Crawford and Spence both win by first round KOs with their opponents in mind. How does that affect future negotiation between Spence and Crawford? In my mind, it doesn't. It
doesn't change anything. It just keeps everything as it is right now. And both of them just need to either shit or get off the pot, honestly, man. I mean, after they both get their fights in, they need to go ahead and fight or just let it go. I'm tired of being held hostage. And most importantly, I'm tired of seeing the welterweight division being held hostage because neither one, honestly, I don't think neither one is going to fight a Boots or Ortiz right now at this stage because they don't have the value for either one of them at this point in time. They don't have belts.
Yeah.
They're great. They're good upcoming fighters, but they don't have belts for Spence or Bud.
Yeah, my opinion on that is that if Crawford were to get a first round KO and Spence went the distance with his fighter, it really doesn't matter because at the end of the day, it's about putting cheeks in seats. And so I think BLK Prime is a prime opportunity for Terence Crawford. He's selling the pay-per-view for $39.95. So that's an opportunity for him to sell a bunch of pay-per-views and bring that back to the table from a negotiation standpoint. So if he doesn't sell a ton of pay-per-views with the lower price, then he's going to be in more trouble when he goes into negotiation with Spence. And I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying to keep up with everything in the chat, but it's going by fast.
Salute to you, Donnie Pruitt, for you said you bought your ticket to the to Bud's fight. Salute to you, man. Does anyone know if they released the undercard? Because the undercard is going to be real big player to me to really make this even more successful than what it could be with Bud being a headline. You got to have a stacked card, honestly, for that type of fight there because Bud's not fighting anyone that most people know or care about. You know, same thing with Spence. If Spence wasn't going to fight Stanionis, Thurman, or Boots, anything like that, he's going to fight someone that's number 7 or 8 in any of the sanctioned bodies. No one's really going to care about that and pay a lot of money for it.
Hey, I want to go to Dwayne. Dwayne says he's first time in the channel. Dwayne, thank you for joining the live broadcast, man. We really appreciate it. So he says, let's just say Errol is on recreational drugs, not peds per the video. Then why aren't people like Bud beating down the door to get in the ring with him? And that makes perfect sense. Somebody that's on recreational drugs, listen, you're damaging your body. And your body is your most valuable asset when you're an athlete. So anybody that is on recreational drugs or anything to that effect, you will hop into the ring with him instantly because you know eventually those recreational drugs are going to have damage on his body. But more importantly, if he's on recreational drugs, Errol Spence is still beating motherfuckers' ass, regardless of what he's on. So maybe that's the reason why, if he is on recreational drugs, which I doubt.
I agree with you. League of Legacies. BLK is atrocious when you look at the marketing. Yeah, I was trying to look up information about Brian Norman Jr. because he was a BLK Prime. He was supposed to fight, I want to say this month, next week on the 19th. His fight got canceled. So that's just it's just not good. It reminds me of the Triller shit all over again. Again, I'm hoping they do well, especially if it is a black-owned company. I've heard different things about it being a black-owned company, but even if it's not, if a startup company put more competition in there for these boxers and for us to get better fights, I'm all for that. I don't care. I'm all for that.
So JT, I want to address what JT Tate just said. Ortiz said he was not ready. So Brenda brought that up as well, and that's a fair point. But what is also a fair point is he could have fought someone else other than David Avanesian. He could have fought Boots Ennis. And before anybody goes and say Boots is with Showtime, Sean Porter was also with PBC and Fox and Showtime, whatever. I think he was actually a host for Fox, right? So there's a way around everything. If you're bringing ducats to the table, and BLK must be bringing ducats to the table because they got $10 million to spend. So if they're bringing ducats to the table, you could have made the Boots in his fight or any other fight with a fighter that was better than David Avanesian. So I don't think that that's really a good excuse. Yes, Ortiz said he wasn't ready. Oscar said differently, but at the end of the day, he still could have got in the ring with a better fighter if he wanted to.
Exactly. And JT, Spence has 3 mandatories: Boots, Stanionis, Thurman. Not just one. He has 3 mandatories.
Brenda says they were beating down the door. Yeah, I don't believe that, Brenda. They weren't beating down the door.
Dwayne, I don't think Crawford's pay-per-view numbers are gonna be great, honestly, just because it's an upstart, and unless this undercard is packed, I don't think it's gonna be great. It's just a lot of shit going on that day.
I'm tired of Anthony Jones, man. He said they're gonna have Roy Jones fighting Roosters on the undercard. Stop, man. Come on, bro. Come on, bro. Let me see what
JT Tate, if he fights Thurman, he's fighting one of his Mandos.
Exactly.
What are you talking about, dude? Why isn't Bud fighting the number 1 rank in the WBO?
Exactly. Hey Jay, let me ask you a question.
Come on now.
Didn't you bring up that, I can't remember if it was you or not. Did you mention something about Errol possibly fighting Pacquiao?
Nah.
That wasn't you? I saw that somewhere.
Someone posted to ask in
I saw that question, but I saw it somewhere and I can't remember where.
Yeah, Pacquiao. If Pacquiao's smart, he ain't gonna fight nobody. He's just gonna do his exhibition on the 10th of December and keep the exhibition following the footsteps of Floyd. Because Pacquiao, the way he got his ass beat by Ugas, he don't want those Spence problems. He don't want those butt problems. Pacquiao is like 75 years old now.
I totally agree with that. He our age, man. His legs ain't working. Hey, GA Peach, yes, they are limiting themselves if they're only targeting a black audience. Now,
yes,
it's possible that you can use that as your niche and then expand on that. And if that's what they're doing, that's a sound business. I wouldn't say that that's necessarily a bad thing, but they can't just be localized to African Americans. They have to be thinking about a broader strategy beyond that. And this has to just be the initial part of their strategy. I would say year 1 to year 5, or maybe year 1 to year 3, actually.
Yeah. Hey, Anthony Jones, it wouldn't be bad, man, to see Pacquiao go out against Spence, man. Come on, man. You'll watch that. Nah, I won't want to see that, honestly. I mean,
I don't want to see him get destroyed, but I would watch the fight.
I'll watch the fight, yeah, definitely.
I just agree. Say Bud fighting a 10-year-old schoolgirl, but worried about Spence. I ain't gonna lie, boy. Some of you guys got some zingers, boy, for real.
JT Tate, what don't you understand? I never said Spence was fighting anyone. He's rumored to be fighting Thurman because WBC came out saying they're gonna mandate that and push that. Even Bud said that he thinks the WBC is going to overpower the other ones and force that fight. That is one of Spence's Mandos. Spence has 3 Mandos: Stanionis, Boots, and Thurman.
Yeah, and WBC is more is the stronger entity. Why wouldn't Boots petition for a mandatory? He's the number 2 contender. I think you're talking about for the WBO, but you don't petition for a fight if you're not number 1, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I do not want to see Spence execute. They're limiting themselves because they're not being aware of other events going on in the same date. Plus, this event, that's fair point, League of Legacy. Yeah. Fair
Thank you, Bray Madonna. They mandated Thurman today. WBC they had their convention this, I think it was yesterday, and like over 3 days this week or whatever, and they mandated it. So I never said he's definitely fighting Spence. They're mandating it. Stanionis also wants it too. Boots also is petitioning for it, from what from Boots' dad said like last week, I believe. They're trying to get.
Ashton, Thurman has been real quiet. I think he's just hoping that he's going to make that this fight's going to get made. And that's probably the reason why he's quiet. Just shut up and hopefully it end up working out for you.
Yeah.
T-word, the WBC is the most weight.
Big business should be done in quiet. It should be done behind closed doors. I mean, we saw how quick the Caleb Plant Benavidez fight happened. That's already signed and set up. So, I mean,
Jay said if Ortiz isn't activating the mandatory, Boots can petition to move up above Ortiz. Jay, you might be right. I'm not 100% sure on that, to be honest.
Yeah, Thurman wants a payday. Thurman wants a payday for sure.
Why you worried about Spence, Mando, when Budrick is fighting a no-name? Big facts, Isaac. Big facts. Daniel Phillips said anyone in the top 3 can petition for a mandatory. They confirm, deny, or they could order an eliminator. If Boots were to petition the WBO, they would likely approve since Ortiz is looking other. Great information, Daniel Phillips. That's something that I did not know.
Yeah, so I don't know when Spence is going to announce it. I was hoping soon, but I'm thinking his fight probably won't be till January. I don't think it's going to be in December because December 17th will be right about 5 weeks. Yeah, about 5 weeks out. And I don't see it happening that soon.
T. Ward just added something else. Bud cannot be mandated until May 2023. That's 18 months after his last Mando versus Porter. Great information. Great.
So basically it's on Bud to make the fight.
Yeah, Bud is not going to make the fight. We all know that.
Yeah.
I have not heard anything about Bud being mandated by Ortiz yet. Not mandated. Ortiz is number 1, but not mandated. Hey guys, we got 140 people in the live stream. If you haven't had the opportunity, please hit the like button. It helps other people find this content. If you like it, please hit the like button. And if you don't like it, hit the you don't like it. I mean, either way it goes. But yeah, go ahead and be active with that.
Yeah, Terrence Summerford. I don't know if Thurman's more brave or just we're looking for a payday. Because him fighting Spence is going to be bad for him. I mean, we know Thurman can't take no body shots, and we know that's Spence bread and butter. So I mean, I don't see that fight going a distance at all because he's been hurt in damn near in every fight to the body. And against Pac, he got knocked down by getting punched in the face. So I mean, it's going to be bad for Thurman one way or the other.
Hey, Jay, my brother, we appreciate that, man. That $4.99 is, it means the world to us because it tells us that people value what we're doing. So we really appreciate that, man. Thank you. Brenda, what do you mean by forget what Thurman fight like? I'm not sure what you mean by that.
It's probably because it's been a while for him.
Oh, you've forgotten what he fights like. Oh, okay. I got you. Anthony Jones said he's going to punch Thurman intestines out. Yeah, it is. That body rock, that liver. What did Damon Wayans say that one time? I'm gonna design a punch to make your liver bleed. He gonna beat the brakes off of Thurman, man. The only chance Thurman has is I think Thurman is fast and explosive, but the problem is I think he's fallen off since his earlier days. And then Spence is so calculated and patient in how he attacks. So if he does fight Thurman, I don't think Thurman really has a real significant chance to win that fight. But he does have power, so he could hurt Thurman. I mean, could hurt Spence, but I mean that could happen with any fighter.
And so people are saying that Spence said he wouldn't fight Thurman. If he's mandated to fight Thurman or has to vacate that belt, you think he won't fight Thurman? Because his whole goal is what? To be undisputed.
Hey,
So
so I got to say this, man, and this I'm being funny when I say this, but I'm tired of the folks in the chat because they're killing me with some of these jokes. Keith is in his get back year. Say GA Peace Denise.
he been
He's
his
been
get back.
he's been in this get back year for like 4 years. So that's a fair point. That's a fair point.
Yeah, Spence hates Thurman with a passion. So that's why I'm thinking if they really mandate and force his hand for Spence to keep the 3 belts and hopefully with an outside glimmer shot of being undisputed to fight Bud next year, he'll stay and fight Thurman and beat the shit out of Thurman, I think.
Anthony Jones, we appreciate that, man. Just the fact that you're willing to donate to our channel we appreciate that, whether you do or not. We have, I mean, we don't have a Cash App or a Venmo. We don't do this necessarily to get paid. We just enjoy doing it. Now, again, at some point there is an expense associated with this, so of course we'll need to cover it. But we just really appreciate just getting the opportunity, man, to just hang out with the fans, man, and talk boxing. That's what we really enjoy.
Hey, now since Greg say Thurman from my neck of the woods, the Bay
He
Area,
is.
y'all gonna have
He
to
is.
get off Thurman, man. He in the get back, 2 years, 3 years, something like that, So y'all ease up on Thurman, man. I get it, man.
Thurman is from your hood.
Oh, he definitely
Appreciate
retires
that, Anthony.
Thurman. He definitely retires Thurman.
Spence will probably force the purse bid and then make it free TV. I'm not sure exactly which fight you're talking about there. Are you talking about the Thurman fight, Big Dose 513?
Not 10 years strong. Georgia Peach, I'm gonna put you in timeout now. You're gonna leave Bay Area man alone now.
Donnie Pruitt, I agree with that. I think Thurman's
You
only
too, Brenda.
chances Thurman Thurman's only chance is to try to use movement, which he doesn't have much of because he's gotten into an advanced age. I think Thurman is like 34 at this point, so he doesn't really use a lot of movement. I don't think he necessarily has enough boxing skills and angles at this point to keep Errol off of him. And again, Errol is very calculating in how he attacks. He uses angles. So Keith is going to have to clip Errol with something to get him up out of there. If this fight goes the distance, I think, or if this fight gets into the later rounds, I really just think Errol is just going to beat the dog shit out of him. I mean, that's just my opinion.
I think it'll probably go 8 to 10 rounds, but it's gonna be a punishing 8 to 10 rounds.
I agree with that.
Errol gonna get on his chin, get in his chest. Keith gonna try to go on his bicycle and run around the whole ring, because that's what he does. He actually runs. He's not being evasive. He's just running. He's not gonna be able to spit his mouthpiece out and try to avoid stuff and stuff like that. Not happening. He's not as young as he used to be, and truth be told, he has 1 foot in, 1 foot out of box right now. He's looking for one more big payday right now. So that's where he's going at.
Thank you so much, man, for the donation to the channel. We really appreciate that. Thomas, this is the first time I've seen your name, so I don't know if you've been on the channel before, but man, we welcome you, and make sure you subscribe, and I definitely recognize your name moving forward. Yeah, Spence hates his guts. Thurman already at Madame Trout's Wax Museum. Oh, Brenda got some heat too. Brenda got some heat too.
Yeah, I don't see that. Yeah.
Crawford stalling, putting boxing on pause. I always wanted to give Crawford the benefit of the doubt, but I'm struggling to give him the benefit of the doubt now because I think there's just so many different ways he could have handled this to really show that he wanted this fight, and he didn't do any of those. So I'm struggling to believe that he really wants this fight. I think it's more so he really wants the payday.
Not you too, T Ward. Keith. So for the Bud fans, so hypothetically, let's say this. Bud wins his fight, Spence wins his fight, they still don't get the deal done. Who would y'all want to see Bud fight next? Would y'all want to see him stay at 147, fight one of the young guns, or would y'all see one Bud to move up to 154?
I'm
And
answering
who
that
would he fight
question.
at 154?
He got to fight. He got to fight a young gun. I mean, if Spence is gone, well, number one, he needs to fight a mandatory. He needs to fight somebody that's going to actually be a challenge. No more David Avanesians. That's a wrap. Like that's a complete wrap. So that's got to be done with.
Yeah. So Ashton H said, Boots. So how do you see that fight with Boots and Bud happening?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, I was asking you and the P in the chat.
So, man, it's hard to say, and the reason why I say that is usually I like to make predictions on fights based off of actually sitting down and watching like fights and really like analyzing. Because sometimes I watch a fight as a fan, and sometimes I watch it as an analyst, where I'm looking at what a fighter does well and what a fighter doesn't do well, and what skills a fighter brings to the table that would cause the other fighter problems. And I haven't had the opportunity to sit down and look at Bud and Boots, but it's hard to say because I haven't seen Boots tested yet to see how he reacts to certain things. Terence, to some extent, has been tested, even though I think his competition really isn't elite. So right now, I got to go Bud would win, probably by decision. But I would have to sit down again and just look at the skills, what each fighter brings to the table. And then I would like to see them stand next to each other, right? Because size plays a factor in how they match up as well.
I'm laughing at Anthony Jones. So I see a lot of people saying Boots. I give it to Bud on the strength of his experience. He's been there before, and not saying Boots can't win. I just don't know what Boots is going to do when he's under those bright lights against a fighter of that caliber. I mean, then you can say the same thing. You don't know how Bud's going to do a fighter of Boots' caliber because Boots is young and hungry. It'll be a dynamic fight, though. I would love to see that fight happen. Now,
let me say, Anthony Jones just said Boots is a huge dude, and that's the reason why I like to see guys stand next to each other. And when Loma fought
Ortiz,
God, no, not Ortiz. God, why am I
Tio.
losing his name right? No,
Salido.
no, the small guy. God, why am I losing his name right now?
You talking about
I'm losing
Rigo.
his name. Yeah, Rigo.
Rigodao.
Yeah. When he fought Rigo, and I thought that was a close matchup until I saw him at the weigh-in, and I was like, no, these guys are not. This is going to be a blowout in favor of Loma. Size makes a big deal when you're matching up. Let me see. Somebody else has said something that I thought was interesting. Thomas Field, in my opinion, I think they want Spence and Crawford to meet at 154, so neither is losing their belt, and the winner matching up with Charlo. That's an interesting concept. Yeah. That's a very interesting concept.
I just don't see Charlo. Definitely see Charlo fighting Spence unless the big bucks come out there. I don't see them fighting each other. I think so. I think Mel will move up and Maul will move up. Maul will be going to 168. Mel will be going to 160.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I think it's more plausible that they want them both to move up to 154, so neither loses the belt. And then Jermell moves up, and these two actually duke it out for 154-pound supremacy. That's probably more likely than them facing Jermell, just because Jermell is not. I don't think Jermell's gonna fight.
And Big Dose 513. You're right. We really haven't seen Bud tested either by a true fighter of true caliber. Porter was on his way out when they fought. Kell Brook doesn't count. He was washed up as well. He fought, but at 147, I really can't say he's really truly been tested, and that could be a couple things. It could be the fact that the guys he fought weren't that good. Also, could be the fact that Bud's just that good.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, it's a combination of things.
Arthur Daniel Jr., we appreciate the love. Thank you.
And someone mentioned Fundora and Spence. Fundora at the WBC convention, he already said he was talking soft. Like he was like he wants to establish himself. He want to prove it to himself before he fights Spence. So Fundora don't want those Spence problems right away.
Yeah, he doesn't want that. So Dennis Harris said Bud's training seriously in good health. Errol on video sloppy drunk. I think Errol is about to lose to anybody. Well,
Damn.
Dennis, let me just say this. So, number one, Errol, we haven't seen Errol drunk. I know we were talking about videos, but we need to see the videos that you guys are talking about. Speculation that he was on something, speculation that he was just after surgery. But at the end of the day, regardless of what Errol is, he's kicked everybody's ass that been in front of him. So I don't know if what you're saying is a fair statement. Adrian Molina, I appreciate you, my brother. Thank you for donating to the channel. It's much appreciated. We really appreciate anybody that's really value the content like that. So Bud is in a position where he has to fight a better quality boxer after the C-level fighter is clear. It's going to be a top 3 or vacate. I agree. He's gonna get his payday, but there's gonna be a lot of pressure on him to fight somebody that's, has a pulse. The thing about it, Adrian, and what I'm concerned about is that he's at a point right now where if he is truly getting $10 million, he's at a point right now where he's probably solidifying his financial position, and he may not necessarily feel that pressure to actually get into the ring with somebody who's top-notch quality just because he's laced his pockets. Let's see who else. Spence and Charles have already said they would fight for big money.
If the money is right.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, if the money's right, but I don't think they're going to. That's the thing. I don't think the money's going to be there, Thomas. That's the reason why I don't think they're going to fight.
Big Doe said he think Maul would rather fight his brother than go up there with Benavidez. That's a fair point, because Maul was going to say they want to fight last year or something like that, because they had a little beef with themselves on I think it was either IG or Twitter.
Hey, Arthur Daniel Jr., appreciate your contribution to the channel. Thank you. Terrell Summerford said, if we do not see Bud against Spence or Crawford, I think you mean Spence or somebody else. We know Bud didn't want to smoke. Errol is not losing. His toughest fight would be against Boots.
Probably meant Boots. Spencer Boots. He probably meant Spencer Boots.
Yeah, probably.
Appreciate that, Tiger X Boxing channel.
Anthony Jones said Bud lives the fighter's life just to fight C-level dudes. Big facts. Adrian Molina said basically we calling him a low-key duck. I mean,
yeah.
If it sounds like a duck, it quacks like a duck.
That makes sense. With Big Dose said Charlo said no to the Spence fight, but Spence said yes. So one is more confident in their skills, I think, than versus loyalty. But he also said it had to be up for a big check. And rumors been out there talking about how Spence was pretty much abusing Mel in their sparring sessions and training. But again, that's still sparring.
Yeah, Tiger X Boxing, dope channel, brother. Tiger X Boxing, we appreciate it, man. Hey, go to one of our videos and leave a message, man, so we can see your channel and subscribe. Appreciate it. Arthur Daniels Jr., we appreciate your comments. Thank you.
That's a good point, David Gibbons. Bud won't fight. Better opposition. He already said he in the Hall of Fame. It's a check from here on out. I mean, that's what it looks like at times. I hate to say it, with Bud, because he's such a damn good fighter. But everything going on right now just sucks for everybody.
It does. The fight not being made, whether you're an Errol Spence fan or a Terence Crawford fan, none of us benefits from it, right?
Yeah.
It hurts the sport, and everybody wants to see that fight, and we need to make sure that all the biggest fights are being made. That's what I want to see, and I want to get on these channels and talk about these big fights.
Yeah. Good point, Brenda. The fact that many great fights we can see don't get made speaks volumes. Yeah, it sucks.
It really does. Hey, man, how long have we been going now? About 2 hours? Been about 2 hours now. So yeah, man, I got to go ahead and wrap it up. So I wanna make a couple of comments before we wrap up. Number one, I want to give big love and shout out to a lot of the people that donated to the channel. We really appreciate that. I also want to give a lot of shout outs to people who support the channel and come on all the shows. And it's people like Fat Cat that I've seen on the shows. Ohio Styles, I've seen you recently. Brenda McDonald, appreciate all the feedback that you've given us, Brenda. It was very helpful, even though you don't agree with everything that we say. Who else in the chat? T Ward, definitely. T Ward has been our biggest supporter since day one. He's now also a rotational analyst on our channel. So we appreciate you, T Ward. Thomas Field, thank you for the donation that you made. Adrian Molina, thank you for the donation that you made. Who else made one? Jay, we appreciate you. Jay is always on the lives. We see him always in the chat.
Yes, sir.
Daniel Phillips, G.A. Peach Denise. Even though you
Gerald
went to Southern, we still love you. JT Tate Ward, you don't agree with us, but we still appreciate it. The League of Legacies, appreciate you, my brother.
He came out of nowhere.
Yeah, you the first time. This is the first time I've seen you. Appreciate you coming to the channel. Anthony Jones, you killing it with the jokes. So I just want to say we appreciate everybody that came to the channel to support. If I didn't get the opportunity to mention your name, Isaac Green, appreciate you guys for joining the channel. One thing I want to announce is that on Sunday, the plan is to have Showboating Sports on the channel with us. So he's going to join the Angry Man podcast. We're going to have him on. We're probably going to go an hour or two, and we're going to talk about the latest topics in the sport. And then the week after that, the plan is to add a call-in. So we want to give you guys the opportunity to actually call in to the show. So we're going to add a number, and we're going to see how it works. Hopefully it works well. We're going to test it out, but you know how it goes, man. Sometimes when you get live, it doesn't work exactly the way you think it's going to work. So,
we'll try to work out.
So that's going to be that's going to be it for us. We appreciate everybody for coming to the show, and we'll probably be dropping some content again over the next couple of days. But if not, you guys will see us on Sunday.
Yeah. Hey, T Ward just said Showboating Sports is live right now, so y'all hop on over there and support Showboating.
Yeah, support Showboating.
Y'all still up?
Yep. Support Showboating, and we appreciate you guys. We'll check you guys out on Sunday, man. Thank you. Y'all have a good one.
Peace.
Thank you again, Arthur Dans. We appreciate your comment.